Hey guys, welcome to Bookenstein. This is our very first episode of a show that I hope is going to be a blessing to you. We're going to have fun doing it. I'm Peyton Jones. I founded with my wife New Breed many moons ago. We technically left for the mission field back in 1999, headed over there 12 years, started New Breed there, brought it back to the States. And here we find ourselves today doing a bunch of training. And my co-host is someone I work with at New Breed. He's our content director. And I always call him one of the men who built Exponential, probably the most well-read person I know, Brooks Hammond. Brooks, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been with New Breed fewer moons than you.
I think I've been with New Breed as long as you've been alive.
That's probably true.
What year were you born in?
94.
Oh yeah, so you were five.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. I don't know if I haven't quite read as many books as you yet, but I read about 80 books a year. So I'm trying to get there and be well read.
I'm not that fast, and the fact of the matter is, you're gaining on me quickly, and all I have is years on you. So it's fantastic. But the other day we were talking, and you're like, "Yeah, I think I've read," and you were looking up. I think I read about 10 volumes of Spurgeon. I'm like, "Dang, this kid's an
Yeah.
animal." So, but anyways, the reason that we wanted to do this show was that we believe very much that readers are leaders, and so we train leaders. We train lay people. We train leaders to train lay people. I mean, I always think of it as kind of like that great literary work, Cat in the Hat. In a box with a fox. We train in the rain on a train. But that whole idea of training people. I mean, I like to say that in many ways I was trained by dead people. A lot of the ministry principles I got were from people who wrote, they being dead yet still speaketh. So a lot of the people that I have really thought, man, I can't wait to get to know them. They're people that I've never met. Paul the Apostle, John Wesley, C.S. Lewis, Lloyd Jones. I mean, I went to his church years ago. I've read all of his books. I own some of his things. My laptop happens to be sitting on his pulpit Bible, but I don't know these people. And yet I have learned so much from them. And there's a proverb that speaks of this. It says, "They that walk with the wise will be wise." And so you may not be able to hang out with some of the wisest people that ever lived, but you can get inside their head if you pick up a book and start reading their thoughts, because they wrote that to pass their wisdom on to us. So part of this, the reason we call it Bookenstein, is that I believe that to be a leader, you shouldn't just be reading theology. You should be reading, you should be well read. You should have a carnivorous appetite for books. You should read fiction, humor, politics, history, science. I mean, my background's in health sciences, and I got a minor in psychology. So when you think about ministry, there's so many things that Jesus appealed to in the natural world to tell us about spiritual truth. The Apostle Paul, he knew something about everything. And Spurgeon's wife once said that anything my husband read about, he became an expert on. So if he spoke with a sailor, they were convinced he had spent years at sea. If he spoke with a physician, they would ask him, "Oh, are you also a physician? Where do you work? Where do you practice?" Because Spurgeon read widely, and it comes out in his writing, preaching, ministry. So I want to know something about everything, and so that's kind of me. I hope that leaders become eclectic. So during the show, we're going to tell you books that we think you ought to read, and Brooks and I have both compiled our contributions to this show. The first episode will be one of mine. We're going to cover The Hobbit. You can see it in the background with Brooks. But we each have kind of compiled our list of books we think leaders ought to read. and then we agreed on, I think, the other third. So it was kind of like divided into threes, our topics. But Brooks, tell us a little bit about what you like to read. Like, what's your background? What's your forte? Like, if you, I mean, you color code your books behind you, so I can't see any subjects. I just see yellow books, white books, red books, blue books, black books. That's a bit like Dr. Seuss, red fish, two fish,
It is. It
green
is. It's
book, blue
just because
book.
it looks good. I can't ever find my books when I need them.
Well,
But usually, like the way I read is I'll read multiple books at a time. I'll read a chapter out of one and then switch to another book. And so I'm reading maybe five at a time. And I'm usually reading poetry. I'm reading some kind of Christian book. And then I'm reading like what I'll call a project book. It's something that's really big. It's going to take me a long time. Right now, it's John Wesley's sermons. And then there's usually something else, like it's either history or it's a novel, like maybe The Hobbit, something like that. And then something that helps me just get into the Bible. So it could be a Bible commentary. Right now, it's a chronological Bible that just breaks things up and helps me not read the same thing over and over again.
you read a lot. I mean, you're always picking up like the new and the old and kind of mixing them together. And I think that's one way of being kind of like a Bookenstein, right? Like a Frankenstein anomaly where you're reading new and old. And it was, I think it's Matthew 13, maybe Matthew 12, where Jesus says, a scribe well versed in the kingdom will be like a man bringing out of his storehouse treasures, both old and new. And I love that. Like, I love eclectic reading from different ages because they had their blind spots back then, no doubt, but so do we. And sometimes when you're reading someone from the past, you're looking past their blind spots, but they see your contemporary blind spots. They didn't have your blind spots either. And they can open windows onto thinking that you go, oh, okay, you had that wrong. But you know what? I think I have this wrong. And you had that right. So I love that you mix out old and new.
Yeah, you make it sound real like we're gonna say something really profound. You bring it in scripture and everything. I think this will be more like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. They're traveling through time and they're finding the Socrates. They can't even pronounce his name right. They call him Socrates.
Socrates.
I think that's
Yeah.
more what Bookenstein might be.
Yeah, but we're gonna be like Bill and Ted at the gates of heaven trying to get in, and they go, "You must say something wise to enter." And they see the guy over there, and they go, "Dust in the wind, dudes. All we are is dust in the wind." And they just take that Kansas song. Actually, I think they took it from Poison. Every rose has its thorn. I'm conflating episode 1 and 2. And hey, props to you for even knowing Bill and Ted, because this is a problem that Brooks and I often have is we are separated by how many years? I was born in 73. You said you were born in what, 94, 95?
Yeah.
So we're like 21 years apart. And we are constantly educating each other on different things. Mainly it goes like this. I'll say something, Brooks will be like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about, because I'm mentioning something from the 80s or 90s. My worst fear is becoming like Dog the Bounty Hunter, where in like the 2000s I'm walking around with feather earrings and like, way hopelessly out of time. My fashion sense is a little better than his, but my brain might be stuck sometimes back in the past.
Yeah, you're still stuck. You were at a concert yesterday, right?
I was, and I'm
Or
quite
two
proud
days
of it.
ago.
You can make fun of me all you want, but I will always treasure it. I may have seen the very last Love and Rockets concert ever played. It was played in LA. They added a third night, and it's rumored to be their very last show. So I'm quite proud of that. That would be an epic show.
I had to
But
Google who they were.
yeah, and you told me today I listened to half a song. So uh
I get
so
credit for trying, right?
yeah, big time. It's more than I do for your music. And you may not know this, but Brooks is not only an amazing reader, he's a great writer, and he hasn't published a book yet, but I know that day's coming because he writes for New Breed and he writes brilliant stuff. But he's also an MC DJ, so you got some hidden tricks up your sleeves. But you also, like I said, are very well read. So I look forward to this show. I think we're going to have fun. I like the Bill and Ted's comparison. Could be Dumb and Dumber. I don't know, but we're going to have fun doing it. And hopefully you guys get something out of it that you can use in ministry, and you can end up just saying, you know what? Maybe that one's not for me, but hopefully we'll spark you to read stuff that you never considered and apply it to your ministry. Because I actually think that is what Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, did. Chronicles tells us he didn't just write Proverbs, he also collected them. So a lot of the Proverbs that are written, some of them are Sumerian Proverbs. And Solomon just took the wisdom where he could find it in the universe and said, you know what, that's just a universal truth. That is the way that God put things down. And this culture or this group of people over here discovered that. So that is part of God's wisdom. All wisdom is God's wisdom. And he compiled it in the book of Proverbs. And I think he left us a really cool methodology there for acquiring wisdom. Wherever you find it out in the world, it's God's. Well, on that profound thought, I'll just say, all right, dudes, we'll see you next time.